I met Tanesha Barnes in June of 2019 in Barbados. She booked us a private catamaran cruise along the west coast of Barbados. It was an amazing day, an amazing event. What I came to find out real quickly was that Tanesha has strong ties in Brooklyn, specifically in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Many of my friends know her and have purchased her products through tbarnesbeauty.com and have traveled with her through her global traveling organization, T Barnes Global Travel. She has reached the world. She's touched many a country and many a person. Her and her daughter Solana are currently in Morocco, where she's working on a project there, but also she's in place during this COVID-19 pandemic. I felt like her perspective was necessary, not just because of her status as a business owner, but because she's kind of a global dweller. She doesn't travel like a vacationer. She travels like a global dweller. And so because of her comfort zone, because traveling is in her comfort zone, I thought it was important to hear her perspective on how COVID-19 is being received internationally and what she also felt about America's response to it. Here's Tanesha Barnes. Enjoy. All right, peace and blessings, everybody. My name is Marlon Rice, and I'm the columnist for Our Time Press. And as you guys know, I've been chronicling stories and experiences of people as we move through this COVID-19 pandemic. I got a pleasure. I'm honored today to be able to talk with Miss Tanesha Barnes. So last year, my girlfriend and I took a trip to Barbados, and Tanesha and my girlfriend are cool, and she set up a private catamaran tour of the west coast of Barbados for us, and it was such an amazing day. And then when I got back home, what I realized is that everybody that I know knows Tanesha. So she's definitely someone who's made her impact here in Brooklyn, here in New York, but she is out of the country today. And I'll let her explain to you where she's at and how she's gotten there. She's the owner of T Barnes Beauty, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And T Barnes Global Travel.
And T Barnes Global Travel, yes. So I would like to present to some and introduce to others Miss Tanesha Barnes. How are you, Tanesha?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I need a shave, but my spirit is not.
You're looking cute. You're looking cute.
And where are we today? Where are you right now?
I am in Hamid, Morocco, which is it's like right at the tip of the Sahara Desert, right at the beginning of it, near the Algerian border. I'm in the heart of the Sahara.
Wow. Okay. So it's a little after 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. What time is it there?
It's about 7 o'clock here.
Wow. Okay. Beautiful. What time does the sun set out there? It's getting kind of late.
Yeah, it's late here. I think it'll probably go down probably all the way around 7:45.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's start by give the listener an idea of what T Barnes Global Travel is and the work that you do internationally and domestically. Let's start there.
Okay. All right. So T Barnes Global Travel is really a business that came out of my beauty business. I had started manufacturing clothing and doing a fashion line. And as I was manufacturing in different parts of the world, I was traveling and my clients wanted to travel. And so I started doing a trip every January. We'd go to a different part of the world. Ghana, Morocco, Bali, Vietnam, Thailand, different places. And it just morphed into a much larger business than I ever expected. And now the business is really, I curate experiences. I travel differently because I'm not necessarily traveling for tourism. I'm building relationships, and I'm primarily working with the continent. Africa is a big part of what I do, and really getting people, particularly Black folks, whether they're in the US, the Caribbean, or the UK, getting us back to the continent, trying to understand and really, build relationships there from a business perspective, from a tourism perspective, and just build relationships. So that's what I do.
Okay.
curated experiences.
You did a great Year's Eve trip to Ghana. A friend of mine, Tremaine Wright, traveled with you, our assemblywoman here in Brooklyn. You were recently at the NBA All-Star game working with NBA Africa. So, you seem to be making inroads in with the continent, and you're one of these people who are threading the continent back to African Americans here in the States, which is commendable.
Thank you. Yeah, I really hope that I can be a bridge. When I think about the diaspora and we just have so many misconceptions about each other, all across the board. And I hope that I can be a pathway for us to create some healing, to create some business relationships, to create some friendships and marriages, and that's the goal.
That's great. So you've been traveling the last few months. You've been going back and forth. When did you start hearing about this COVID-19? And under what circumstances was it beginning to ring in your head?
Well, I mean, I keep up. So I knew in December when we were in Ghana that it had hit China. And at that point, I don't think that I was really considering it being something that was going to travel across the globe. I didn't see it as a global crisis at that particular point. Once I got back, in January, I was in Ghana, the first part, then Cape Verde. I think I got back to the States after Senegal in about February. And when I was in Senegal, we were hearing you know, that some things were happening. I think Italy had started to kind of get bad. And so by February, March, it was starting to become an issue. And especially from the travel perspective, I had trips on the schedule. We actually were right here in February in Morocco. And so, I was paying attention to what was going on. And then I would say by the beginning of March, I realized, okay, this is going to spread and this is going to be a global crisis. And I started to see how the US was responding to it and how Africa was responding to it. And I started to make some choices and decisions at that point.
Now, you have parents that are here on the East Coast.
I do. I'm from Texas, so the majority of my family is in Texas, but my parents live in Danbury, Connecticut.
Okay.
Mhm.
And when was the last time you were in America? When did you leave last? Because I remember me and Keena rooting for you to make the flight. When was that? That was recent. That was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it was. I was in Morocco in February, and I got back, and 2 weeks later, I had been invited to work on this project that I'm doing now, and so it was already on the table for me to come back.
Right.
And then I started to see what was happening. School hadn't. It was the 16th of March is when we left. School had not been
That was the
canceled.
day. Yeah, that was the day that school got canceled, March 16th.
Yeah, that the day I had already booked her ticket and decided that she was going to come with me. And I just said if there was going to be school, she just wasn't going to be in it. And then thank goodness, school was canceled and not canceled. She's doing distance learning.
Right.
And then we ended up, they closed the border that day. And so we thought we weren't going to be able to get on a flight, that our flight had been canceled. And Solana was so devastated, my daughter, and she was ready for the trip. I think we had just made a decision to go. And I talked to her about all of the reasons why I thought it was good for us to leave. And she was ready. And so I was like, okay, well, we're going to still try. And we went to the airport, and sure enough, we were on the very last flight before the borders closed, the very last flight out of the US.
Wow, that's amazing. So how is Morocco treating this virus? How are you safe there? Like what's going on there? Give me the insight on how they're doing this in Morocco.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started researching, I could have gone to a few different places in Africa. We have a space house in Ghana. There's a lot of different places that we could have ended up. I chose Morocco very specifically. One, because I had a situation here where I knew that I could come, have a place to stay, have food to eat, and it wouldn't be a financial burden to me because I didn't know how long we would have to be here. So that was one part of it. Morocco posed an opportunity. But two, I saw how the king here was really locking down. He took this very seriously from very early on when Trump was still saying that this was a hoax. They were locking up borders here.
Mm-hmm.
And so from what I see and what I suspected, and it has so far proven to be true, the government here and the people here took it very seriously. You know, Africa's been through this. This is not a continent wide. They have seen epidemics. They've seen people die. And I think that the approach that people will take here is always going to be different than in the West. And so he closed out the borders before we even left to Europe. And then once we got here, I think one day later, we got like one day in Marrakesh to like go around. One day later, then everything, the borders were closed, everything was starting to close down. Then at that point, when we first got here, you could only be 3 people in a taxi. Like it was kind of gradual, but pretty dramatic. Then the very next day, it was like, you need to get to where you are because we're about to go on a real lockdown. And since I've been here, we started out with 38 cases. Morocco has increased to 475 cases as of today. But most of those people were Europeans, and those people have been isolated and are being treated, or they're out of the country now. And just in general, there's a serious lockdown. You know, there's no trains working, there's no buses, and there's no taxis. You have to have a pass to leave the space that you're in. Fortunately for Solana and I, we're in a palace. So we have grounds on the inside where we can still be outside and swim and, you know, walk around in the garden and run around a track. But, you know, for other people, they're in their apartments, and people that break that rule are, you know, facing consequences to that. So he's taking it very seriously. And not just that, we were there. There has been doctors. We've had doctors come here 3 times. The first time for testing, next time to take temperatures. The government has sent people to come and to spray for antiviral spray all over the door handles. And I thought, you know, I am in a place with a man that's very wealthy. He's privileged. And I thought maybe this was a consequence of his privilege. But I've recently found out that no, the government has done this across Hamid. So every place the doctor goes throughout all of Hamid to take people's temperatures, to make sure that that they're steady, and also to go and spray these antivirals in all of the different properties around the town.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Keena's with a man with
So,
privilege too.
and there's like every, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you
I
said.
said Keena's with a man with privilege as well. I spray with bleach. I spray bleach around everything. So I don't have an antiviral, but I got bleach.
Oh, she's a lucky woman. She's a lucky woman.
I want to talk about your business. Like you are in the people business, you are in the travel business, you are a connector. How
Yeah.
is this virus affecting your bottom line, affecting your business? I mean, set aside from the fact that you have a project in Morocco right now, but I mean, in terms of the global travel, I know you had a couple of trips that were coming up. We were going to contact you to hook us up for that catamaran again in June. We were going for my birthday. That's up in the air now. How is this affecting you from a business standpoint?
Mhm. I mean, this has affected both of my businesses. You know, from a beauty perspective, there's no manufacturing right now. You can't get your, you know, China. What people didn't realize from a beauty perspective is that a lot of our packaging comes from China. So there were stops along the way from very early on. And it's caused a lot of delays in getting things manufactured. From a travel perspective, yeah, I mean, you know, my people that travel with me, we're on hold for a minute. I have a trip in May here to Morocco that's probably going to be canceled. You know, we haven't canceled it yet, but the likelihood is that the borders may not be open at that time. Yeah, things are on hold. I mean, one of the good things about my business right now is that a lot of my trips and travel were scheduled for the summer and the fall. So this is really my period of time where I'm doing a lot of a lot of scouting and excursions on my own to prepare for trips coming up. So from that perspective, it has not been as painful. But there's one group that from Anguilla, their borders just got closed and everybody lost their jobs. They're a country that deals just with tourism, and so when people aren't working, they can't travel. So obviously, there's going to be some financial repercussions. But again, like you said, I had really started to move through the continent more, and creating opportunities for myself outside of the United States. And so fortunately, I have this amazing opportunity to be general manager of this palace. And so I would have been transitioning to Africa sooner rather than later anyway. And then still servicing, my clients in the States. So, none of us really know where this is going to go. I am hopeful. I believe that the world will start, because it always does. This is not the end of the world. It is a difficult time, but it'll open back up, and I'm confident that the business will get back on its feet.
How's your parents?
Bear with me one second. I'm back. My parents. I hope my parents are minding me. I hope they're minding me.
Right.
They're I put up a post that if anybody sees Johnny and Julie out in those streets, to call the police, because they're good. They're in their home. They're safe. You know, we had some younger folks that were kind of trying to be in and out. I think that they weren't taking this as seriously as they needed to, and I'm scared for them. I'm scared for what I see happening in the U.S. right now. I'm scared for them.
Mhm, mhm. You have, you okay?
Yeah.
I know it's tough. I know it's tough. And we're all kind of dealing in that space where it's like, on the one hand, you want to continue to adapt to whatever this new normal is, right? And you have
Right.
to be strong, and you have to be focused, and you have to guide your decision making on survival. But on the other hand, this thing is so tragic, and it's so unnerving that it's sometimes very difficult to reconcile the two.
Yeah.
At a moment, I went to pick up some wine, and I looked at myself in my driver mirror, and I realized that I had on a mask and gloves. And I was like, damn, like this is like, just like that. A month ago, we weren't even here. And now we're in a space where I have to do this to protect my life, you know?
Yeah.
So it's definite. It's this juxtaposition of trying to be survivors and understanding that there's a lot of failure around, and how to cope with the two. So I totally get
Yeah. The U.S. I mean, I this was a very conscious decision to leave. I really thought about all the factors,
it.
and I did an assessment based on what I saw coming down the road, what kind of leadership I thought we had. I think that we have an incompetent leadership in the United States, and I wasn't confident that he was going to be able to take us through any kind of global health crisis. I thought about, the fact that we already have disparities in the health system, and that at the end of the day, Black people are going to die because they're going to let them die. And that scared me, that it drove. And these are not things I'm pulling out of the air. Like, we have total statistics that show the health disparities for Black people and brown people in the healthcare system. And if we got to a place like Italy, where they're deciding who lives and who dies based on who they feel is valuable to society, that was going to be really difficult to manage, I think, in the US. Um, I just saw a lot of the things that just felt like this was going to be a better place to be. And the unfortunate part is that now it is, if this hits Africa, I'm clear that the healthcare systems here can't handle it. I'm just betting on the fact that, because the presidents are taking it very seriously and the leadership is better, that at the very least, Morocco can be spared to a certain extent. And so far, the numbers are holding up on the continent, and But I get scared like everybody else. I have no idea how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, yeah. And so for you, who you're a mother of a beautiful young girl, um, who she's blessed obviously to have a strong and impactful mother in their life. Um, how do you tell us some of the ways you translate some of what's happening to her? Because I know here in America, with these kids at home attempting to homeschool while parents are trying to work from home, and this whole
Yeah.
cluster, it's not like it's falling apart.
Hmm.
What are some of the lessons that you were able to teach Alana about what is happening, and what are some of the things she's asking and telling you about her experience in this all?
Hmm. I mean, one of the positive things is Solana and I we've already homeschooled, right? It wasn't outside of how we were already living. I pulled her out of school early on in her schooling and homeschooled. So it was something that she's been familiar with. So I don't think that part has been as much of an adjustment for her. Um, and her school she's in a private school called the Waldorf, very hippie kind of school.
Waldorf. There's one here.
Yeah, yeah. So they've been doing a very good job with their distance learning program. And Solana is a special kind of kid. She's been pretty much strapped to my back since she was 4 months old, traveling around this world. And she has a very interesting way to um, just kind of go with the flow. And thank God, because she got that kind of mama that if she wasn't like that, it would be really difficult. But I think that this has been a part of our experience for so long. And I mean, there was an interesting night because I think I am more scared than her. I think she kind of feels like I got her. And as long as I got her, she's fine and she gets to swim. And I made it to where she's in a beautiful environment and she has Wi-Fi and a computer. She can talk to her friends. Like, I think that she thinks of it as a big adventure, you know and then we're here together. She wraps her legs around me at night and gets to cuddle with her mom every day. And so I think for her, she understands what's going on. But the way she responds to stuff is interesting. We did try to make a flight out of here. My mother was scared, and I was trying to make her a little less nervous. And so we tried to make this last flight, and we didn't make it. On the way back to the Sahara, we stopped. The driver stopped, and he got out. And I guess there was like a guy in the street, and I think he was probably drunk or off or something. And he was at the window, like making. And Solano just looked at him, and I turned around to look at him, and I screamed. And I noticed that like my kid was so calm. She's like a very different kind of spirit. And I had to apologize to her for like losing my cool. So I don't know. I'm watching her. I'm watching her kind of roll with the punches, like figure this stuff out and just adjust to this new life. She has a run of a run of a palace. It's not a bad situation.
Not a bad situation. And yeah, one of the things I've been discussing over the past couple of days is that I think our children were primed for this. They already interface through Wi-Fi, through computers, through laptops, through tablets. So the communication with the outside world is seamless. They don't feel what we feel. They don't go to bars. They don't go out. So they're not missing anything. And then
Yeah.
they already understand that the world is unstable. They
Yes.
know that. They know Trump is incompetent. They know that the states in particular here are in a very unstable space. And so when
Mhm.
things happen, they are very resilient and understanding about their place in it all, which to me is fascinating, you know.
It's been amazing to watch. I agree. I'm looking at Solana move through this space, and like, her biggest worry right now is her birthday. She's going to be spending here.
Uh,
And, I really just want a cake. Like I just really want a cake. Like, can somebody send us a box cake? I mean, I just want a cake. And, I think that I would be scared if I was home. I'm scared here. It's all the same. And here, I am creating something. I'm using my artistic space to, use this energy. And I see Solana doing the same thing with her schoolwork and her, she's creating and she's playing her guitar and she's playing her violin. And I don't know. This is, we're here, and she's watching her mom work, which is great. She's watching me transform this palace, and she's excited about the idea that this will be a part of our new reality, living between here and the US, and creating this space, this art commune, and all these yoga retreats. And so I think that, this is where she's at, and she's just going with it.
Right, right. So you and I have a bunch more we can discuss. I'm going to stop this video here. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation. I think that you have shown a level of resiliency and tact that should be commended. You've been seamlessly moving through different spaces. You keep your eyes and ears open and conscious to what's going on, and you make the tough decision. I don't know if many people would have made the decision that you made, even if it's the right decision, out of fear. So much of what people do is jaded by fear, and your fearlessness has worked in your benefit. And so, thank you. Continue to stay strong. Please be safe in Morocco. I pray for the health and safety of your parents and everybody, because this ain't no joke. And we will see one another on the other side of this. Hopefully, I don't sacrifice that catamaran ride in June, because I'm looking forward to getting out of America and kind of celebrating life. Right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
So thank you. Thank you.
Uh,
All right, and we'll talk soon.
okay. Bye bye.